When making my front cover of my magazine, I had lots of images to choose from. I had to look through all of these photos to pick what I wanted to do or what I wanted to choose. I had to choose between RAW or JPEG files, which meant that basically the RAW files would have more information than JPEG. So that's what I chose. This was so that when I put them into Photoshop, I could edit them better. Once I chose my image, I put it into Photoshop and it came up with all these dials I could change, adjusting all the different types and parts of the photos. I adjusted these sliders and dials to the right sort of settings I wanted and put it into Photoshop. Once I'd done that, this was more or less the basis of like the background and the main photo on my front page. I then got the crop tool out and I cropped the image because at the top of the bottom there were bits that I wanted to get rid of to make it more clean and more crisp. Once I'd done that, I had to think about what I wanted to put on the front page. So I needed to put a title and then the other features. I then went online and onto my website and found what I'd chosen for my title, which was INDR, and I typed that into Photoshop. Once that was on there, I then had the liberty to do what I wanted and choose the fonts that I wanted. I wanted to recreate a more minimalist magazine style, as once I'd started my research, I found all these ideas of having a plain magazine. So I looked for more of an elegant but still like simple font, and I found D dot. This was perfect because it was easy to read and it still stood out on the page. Once I'd done that, I wanted to add something just underneath the headline. So I typed in what the INDR meant, which was an indie rock magazine. That way people could understand what it said on the title, but it wasn't a massive feature on the front of the magazine. So I put that on there once again in the same font as D dot. I then realised I had to have a barcode, otherwise the magazine couldn't be bought. So I went online and I found a small image of a barcode, that was the one thing we were allowed to use from the internet, and I put that onto the page and resized it to fit into the bottom left corner. That was so that it was out of the way, but it was still on the page and it could still be scanned. Once done that, I realised that I had to have other features around the barcode, such as price, issue number, and the date it was released. So I put the price on there using two different currencies, the pounds and euros, and I priced it around £4 and then did the equivalent in euros. I then went on to think about the other features that I would add. So I added the issue number, which was number 24, which was a random choice, the date that it was released, or in this case it was the month that this magazine went with, and then it was who produced this magazine. So once I'd done that, I'd fit it all neatly into this bottom left corner. Once I'd completed this, I thought to myself, this is my magazine complete, and I really liked the whole minimalist but effective idea of this magazine. Once showing it to other people, I realised they told me it needed a headline. So I went online and I researched a bit about how I could add a headline but still be minimalist. And I found a magazine called Indie. It was perfect because they all had headlines, but they were very simple, and they just made the page, they added something to the page, and it sort of added a feature to it which meant that people were drawn to it more easily. So I played around with fonts and different types of headlines, and I made one which was "Who am I?" with a big question mark. But I used more of a freestyle handwritten font. I didn't really like this, so I went back onto Photoshop and I thought, how am I going to be able to represent this front page and this artist on this page? So I thought I'd made a contents page. and a double page spread. So I looked at my double page spread and the sort of things I'd put on there, and the sort of the quotes that I put on there. And there was one big one, which was, "Guess what? I'm not really a bitch." So I thought this links to how people think she's someone who she's not. So let's go on that line. So I then created the headline, "Diable isn't just my stage name." This way people were drawn to the front page and made them think, oh, there's something about this person, and it would maybe entice them to read on. So I needed to play around with colours so it would sort of stand out on the front of the page. So I created this, or not created, but I found this bright blue, teal, slightly turquoise kind of colour, which stood out on the black top she was wearing. But I realised with the green alien and the strap from her denim clothes, sort of obstructed the writing a little bit. So I added a rectangle, just a slightly opaque rectangle behind the text so it was more easy to read. And this was my magazine complete. I was extremely happy with how it turned out because I was able to recreate a very minimalist but effective style.